Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. It is Tuesday night. It is 9 p.m. It is Scho Bro time. You are here with Behind the Steel Curtain co-editor Dave Schofield, and coming at you with me, I'd like to say as always, although he doesn't miss, but back at the regular time to start the show is my big brother Rich, although you still have your name or Kyle at the bottom. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
No, I did not. Well, it's not or Kyle tonight. Kyle's over here. And
somewhere.
He's fixing up my lighting for me here.
There you go.
It's not quite right. That'll do. Thank you, sir.
I thought you your arms were making it go away. That's pretty impressive.
So, yeah.
So there he is.
Right, bud.
So
he gets showered, gets ready for bed, hops in bed, and watches us on his phone.
There you go.
So he'll be in the live chat in a minute for everybody that's out there.
There you go.
Hey, doing well here today. It's kind of funny. Yesterday, here in the mountains of Western Maryland, there was snow on the ground.
Nice.
It was 70 degrees today. And by Thursday, we're to have snow on the ground again. So welcome to spring.
Yeah. Spring in, I mean, basically, I'm trying to think because you're right. Mountain Maryland, far west Maryland, as far as you can go, basically due south of Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, all just slightly east, but almost due south.
Yes, almost due south of Pittsburgh. And yeah, that's kind of how the weather is this time of year. So here we are. We're here to talk Steelers. There's always plenty to talk about. Like I said before, we're used to talking about football during the season for 6 days to only get football for one day. We're so used to talking about football without football. That's why we can still do it in the off season. That's what makes football so great. So we had some things come about today. The first thing I want to talk about before we get into our whole running back discussion and everything is that big shocker to everybody. The NFL is going to 17 games this season. Oh my goodness. I didn't know how I was going to respond to that. No, bottom line is it became official. It became official today. That was agreed upon in the CBA last year that they could do it as early as this year. So you knew they were going to do it. That means all the TV deals fall in place. But there's a lot of things. Hey, we see someone said about I'm sorry, Master of Puppets, but Cumberland is almost Mountain Maryland. You're close, but not quite.
Not up the mountain. It's at the base of the mountains.
Yeah. So he's basically about halfway between you and me then. Anyway, back to what you're saying. 17 games. It was coming. We all knew it was coming. It was going to happen. It just had to be made official. But there's lots of things that came along with that. You knew the Steelers matchup, didn't you?
What's that?
You knew who the matchup was going to be when they added the 17th game,
we
right?
talked about it. Sorry, I had to kick this one in here. Somebody
listening from
Barbados tonight.
Yes.
So
I'll try there.
Shoot, we talked about who it was. Hold on. It's in the NFC.
Yep.
It's the division we're furthest away from playing, or no, not furthest away.
Well, furthest away from both playing and until you play them again. So in other words, 2 years removed.
Yep.
2 years removed. I'll
give
you a hint.
The winner, so that would be Seattle.
Because you were at the game the last time they played Seattle.
Correct.
So it will be at Heinz Field once again. Don't take Kyle. Sorry. Don't take Kyle again to that one. Kyle wasn't the last one. Okay.
I'm going to pass on that one altogether.
Yes. Sorry, Kyle. So it'll be in Pittsburgh because the way they're doing it, my proposal, like I said, one of my first articles that I did for Behind the Steel Curtain was saying, hey, this was when Jerry Jones was talking about, this is what, the fall of 2018. Jerry Jones was talking about the whole 18-game schedule, blah, blah, blah. So I threw out there, I had a proposal for 17 games a long time ago. The only difference with the proposal, they did the exact matchup that I said, which was NFC, 2 years removed, same place in the division. Exactly as I proposed. The only difference was I proposed having that extra game be at a neutral site. Now, something that came about today kind of makes that they're just not playing as many neutral site games because and another thing is I also included an extra bye week so that way they didn't have to play on and the one would always be before the Thursday night game. So they didn't have to play on a short week, but they didn't listen to me for that one. But there are several things
because they listened to you
because they listened to me.
Yeah, they were listening and said,
no, I mean I thought it was a decent idea. But what they're doing is they're rotating between the AFC and the NFC of who gets the home game. Also, they are cutting out one preseason game. So it was really weird how they worded this. It's not an extra game, it's a redistribution. They're redistributing one of the preseason games into the regular season. So it's the same number of games. It's 20 games, but it's 3 and 17 rather than 4 and 16. Now, for the Steelers this year, that's not going to matter because they got the Hall of Fame game, so they're going to have 4 preseason games anyway. So they've got the extra one. So, interesting tidbit that I found in an article this morning, and I was like, I'm going to write this. I'm going to write an article about this. And I slapped the quote, got it all ready to go. Then the news broke. Jeff's going to write the article. I said, Jeff, pull up my article, pull the quote out of here. It'll fit in yours perfectly. And he did. So it was, if you read that article from Jeff when it went to a 17-game season, it had something that I had found in there earlier today. And that was that they're not changing the calendar of when the preseason starts and when the regular season starts. They're just playing 3 games. So there will be 2 weeks between the final preseason game and the first regular season game rather than just one. So that's interesting to know. That pushes the regular season back an extra week, the playoffs back an extra week, the Super Bowl back an extra week to, I think Michael Beck figured it out that in 2027, the Super Bowl will be played on Valentine's Day.
Nice.
And I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I don't know anything for Valentine's Day anyway. So that was interesting. But another thing that I brought up, wait, any thoughts? What are your thoughts on the whole preseason thing and the whole 2-week and anything like that? What do you think about that, Rich?
I don't know. That might be a little weird because, it's not going to be that big a deal, honestly. The more I sit and think about it, it's not.
Yeah. So, and it's funny, Christopher 11 says less preseason games is good for season ticket holders. That's true, but here it's going to be every other year. This year coming up, I am a season ticket holder, is there'll be 9 regular season games and 1 preseason home game. Then the next year it'll be 8 and 2. And then the next year 9 and 1. And they're not going to charge you the same amount both years. Because they charge you by game. So it'll be more for 1 year and less the next, I'm sure. So interesting how that's going to work. We'll see. Let's just see this. For my individual team, I don't know that I like having, another game, another chance of injury, another, chance to get worn down. But when you talk about just watching football in general, I always say more football, the better, because I can just watch football. So the one other thing that they did mention is their plan for international games. There will be at least 4 international games starting in 2022. And it's going to work out that I think on an 8-year rotating basis, every team will have one. So right now, the spots that they had in the memo that went out was Mexico City, London, and I think they went to Munich or it was possibly one, or, somewhere, in Germany. So pretty interesting. We'll see how it works out.
Okay, that was 3. Where's the next one?
Well, because there'll be 2 in London. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I forgot.
That's all right. Figures they send 2 there. I know there's probably a couple, blokes down under that are looking for games to go to, like Sydney or somewhere.
Now, that was actually brought up. There are other places that were outlined where there were possibilities. South America was included because they think they might tap into Brazil. Okay, would be the main one, like Rio or something. They did not include.
You did. I almost went all Brian Anthony Davis on you there.
Uh-oh.
Almost broke into a little Duran Duran.
Oh, sorry. Her name is sorry. Yeah. So they did not include Asia or Australia. Sorry about that, Matty P and Marky D. But the reason the NFL did not include those is because of the severe time difference. That's just too far pushed out. You know, those guys are coming to us from the future every Saturday when they do their show. Just the time difference in order to work out the games. The NFL contractually has to play X number of games a season that are kickoff at 9:30 a.m. Eastern in order to live up to their what is it?
Yeah.
Their media deals, their TV deals.
I know.
So this is crazy. It's crazy. It's interesting, but this is a lot of stuff that we talked about. That was kind of big. That just kind of all the little nuances from it. Anything else you ready to talk running backs?
Herb. Let's talk.
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted to talk any more 17 games. So I'm looking forward
it's 17 games. Guess what? It's like 16 games, but one more.
Now there's this. I tell you, he's not the best color man in the game for nothing. Sorry.
No, that's right. You know, I don't know. I'm in a mood tonight.
Yeah, that's nice though. There was something else I was going to bring up with that I thought was interesting. That then I forgot because you were just too funny. So maybe we should just talk running backs. If I think of it later, I'll bring it back up. So we can talk running backs. The Steelers added another running back. All right, you ready for the story? Got to tell a story, Rich?
Tell the story.
Did you?
Wait a minute. It's going to be a short story or a long story?
It's probably going to be. It's not going to be that long. Did you read?
Okay, that's Dave saying it'll be a long story.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, did you read? I had an article today that said that was kind of like a counterpoint to Jeff's article from the day before about Jeff, coming to being okay about running back in the first round. I brought up the counterpoint of Steelers could pass on a running back altogether.
Yes,
it's possible.
I read your story. It was the only story I think I got to read today.
Yeah. So it was the whole notion of they could pass on a running back. They could go out, sign somebody, and then pass on running back. It was the whole notion of, well, they're sending the coaches to these pro days and they're looking into these players. But here, I know. Thanks, sis. Here is the issue. What if they went to these pro days and they said, these guys are pretty good, but they're not pick 24 good? What if they say none of these guys are really worthy of pick 24? What if instead they say they're worthy of pick 24, but I think they're more worthy of pick 35 to 40?
Right.
And the problem is the Steelers don't pick 35 to 40. They pick 24, they pick 25 or 55. So then you either got to trade back, trade up, or go in with a different plan. What happens if the Steelers we're not going to reach for them, but they're probably going to be gone by round 2? I'm not saying that they did this, but this is part of why you go to pro days and try to figure this stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the whole idea of, what if the Steelers just decide to make a decent free agent signing and be done with it, and then they pass on the position altogether? I know some people were going to be like, eh. So, but anyway, I wrote that article today. Here's the story about it. That article went out at 11 a.m. Eastern. At 11:01 in our breaking news Slack channel, Michael Beck puts in there that the Steelers sign a running back. No joke. 1 minute after the article runs. And I'm going to mess up the name. I'm sure I am. It's Kalen Ballage. I'm pretty sure is how you would say it. Ballage. So I'm going Ballage. Okay. They signed another running back. Here's what you need to know about him. He was drafted in the 4th round by the Dolphins in 2018. So he was drafted prior to 2018 was when the Steelers took Jalen Samuels, right? In the 5th round. So he was drafted ahead of Jalen Samuels, spent 2 years in Miami, had more touchdowns his second year, doubled his carries, and he had less yards. He had under 2 yards per carry in his second year. Ended the season on IR. I guess I was going to say he got cut. He didn't get cut. He got traded. He got traded to the Jets at the end of training camp, spent a couple games with the Jets. I think 4 weeks, appeared in 3 games, something like that. The Jets release him. He gets picked up by the Chargers on their practice squad. Someone says
Take a Kyle
Ballage.
Smith. Ballage.
I'll take that.
Pronunciation.
That sounds
I'm
good to me.
Take his word on it.
I'll take his word for it. Ballage.
We'll take his word for it until
someone else
tells us we're wrong.
We're wrong. So he did all right with the Chargers last year, but was still a free agent, not re-signed by him, not re-signed by anyone. We don't know any details of the contract. I'm going to assume that it's another very low contract. Do you think this move is any kind of solution, or is it simply just a body? Or somewhere in between? And if it's somewhere in between, you got to define it.
I don't know that it's in between. Is your story done now that you asked the question?
Well, my story was only about 20 seconds.
Oh, we're just trying to see here. So, all right. My honest opinion, this is a backup plan.
Okay.
This is maybe we'd still like to do something in the draft, but if things don't go our way there, we at least have this that we're going to fall back on.
Okay. I can see that. In other words, the room has more than enough players in it.
There are enough horses in the stables, but maybe we'd still like to get a thoroughbred.
There you go. Oh, have you been saving that one for a while, or did you just come up
Actually,
with that?
no, that was just,
Yeah. Hey, that's just kind of like Brian Anthony Davis came up with this, with the title of this show. I don't know if you caught what it was or not. And this is, do the Steelers have a first-class plan for their coach running back room? Meaning, this is the question I want to ask about Ballage, right? Ballage, is that how it is? Because I'm thinking of like Bellagio, the casino. Sorry. Of course, that's what I would think about. The question is, James Conner is still available in the free agent market. This is not a Conner upgrade, would you say?
No.
I don't think so either. So I still don't think that the Steelers have done anything to make their running back room better than it was in 2020. And now remember, it's not all about the running back. There's more to it. There's more to the running game than the running back, but it is a very important piece. And the running game last year was last in the NFL. And so far, the Steelers have not improved at the running back position. So that's the question. What's the plan? What was this signing? Was this signing to say, hey, some of these guys at the bottom end of the roster that aren't getting the job done, you might not have a job next year? Is this saying, hey, maybe we're trying to find lightning in a bottle and we could find the next great thing? Is this saying, hey, we want to make sure we have enough bodies so if we choose not to draft, if the draft doesn't fall our way to get a running back where we want it, then it's okay that we don't because we still have plenty of bodies? What is this?
It's another running back for the running back room.
Yeah, okay. Is it an acknowledgement? Okay, go ahead.
There's still 600 directions this could go.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not like this put a huge amount of clarity on anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't put much clarity on anything. It just put another butt in the seat.
It put more cloudiness, right? It kind of clouded the issue a little bit more if you think about it. So here we've got $2. I cannot remember what this is called. Super chat. That's what it's called. We got a $2 super chat coming from Steel Dog 88. $2 at the tip jar says, is McFarland going to be the wild card running back? What do you think?
Not having seen Matt Canada's running system fully unveiled, it's a little hard to say yet. Yeah. He could be. He could potential, the argument could be made that he was drafted where he was last year with the Steelers thinking, oh, if Matt Canada ends up taking over, maybe this is the kind of guy we want to have.
Yeah.
So you may see him getting a bunch more carries this year.
I mean, he wasn't even
I don't know
active some
until
of the time last year.
I know, but we won't know until we see kind of how Matt Canada sets everything up and how everybody starts to fit into the system.
Yeah. Now I'm going to bring up somebody just to say this now. Yeah.
Hold on one thing. That's why training camp, I think, is going to be so fun this year.
Yes. That's very true. Benny Snell. Believe it or not, I think he's one of the guys that's not on the chopping block because he plays more special teams than anybody.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Right.
So I don't know what, and that's part of the reason why the Steelers like keeping Trey Edmonds around, because he can do special teams whenever he's available. Then Thaddeus brings up a good question. Are they going to have expanded practice squads this year? I don't know that yet. They're supposed to go back to 12 because they're supposed to go up from 10 to 12 last year. They went up to 16 because of COVID. I'm fine if they were to keep the 16. I just don't know that they've said for sure what they're doing. So right now, it's funny because the way the running back room falls. Now, let's just look at a reminder. Here's who the Steelers have in no particular order. They've got Benny Snell, Jalen Samuels, Anthony McFarland, Trey Edmonds, and now I forgot his first name, Kalen Ballage. Let's keep going with Ballage. Okay. They've got those 5. That's not even counting Derek Watt as the fullback. We're going to look at that as that's separate.
Right. No, that's separate.
Okay. It's so funny because those players don't know about Ballage yet, but those players seem to be just good enough to where you could justify keeping them, but nothing all that special to make you
think where you're going to cry if
any
of them are cut.
Exactly. I'm going to go back. The one thing I don't want to see the Steelers do this year, I was going to wait and talk about this later, but I've got to say it now because it's on my mind. Don't repeat 2020. 2020 drove me nuts with their draft because I did not want this. Remember, Steelers had no first round pick. I didn't want a running back in round 2. Everyone wanted J.K. Dobbins. I did not. I wanted them to address something else. And with James Conner having one more season, I did. So they didn't. And then they didn't go running back in round 3. I'm like, okay. Going into day 4, I said, running back's off the board. And what they do? They took a running back. I really feel, again, in the 4th round, it's like, so it's either a 3rd, 4th, or 5th round running back is all they're willing to invest, but they keep doing it year after year, hoping to hit. And now last year, I didn't like the pick at all. And then the more I got into it with Anthony McFarland and people talked about him, and like, oh, look at the game against Ohio State. Look at this potential. The Steelers might have gotten a 2nd round value in the 4th round. Okay. Then I was okay with it. But you know what? Based on last year, did the Steelers get 2nd round value in the 4th round? Not yet. I think that's the best answer to say. Not yet.
But again, we talk about, the Steelers not wanting to put their rookies in a position where they have to start.
Yeah.
Right? So
exactly.
If
they come along, great. And if they don't,
you got what you think was 2nd round value in the 4th round, and you're not worrying about trotting them out on the field a bunch last year, then don't.
I don't. But do they need to take the same gamble again? Do they need to go 4th or 5th round and say, oh, we think someone's really good? No. To me, this is another one of those go big or go home. Address the issue or don't. Don't do it halfway. I'll say it that way. Don't. The Steelers don't need another 4th or 5th round running back. I know there's still even some names out there that I wouldn't mind, like a Chuba Hubbard. That's where you would probably get him. That wouldn't be terrible, but that's not. I don't want that to be the plan because that's been the plan for how many years now, and it hasn't worked. So are they thinking it's eventually going to work? Then you're getting into insanity of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So I would prefer. I'm okay. I'm not asking. Personally, I would prefer to not go running back in the first round just because of the way the position is valued in the NFL. But I'm A-okay if they do, because it shows me they're finally going to do it. I think there's more to the running game than the running back. That's why I would not mind one bit if it was offensive line that they invest heavily in. So it's just one of those things. What do you think?
I told you before the show. See, now it's my turn for the story.
Good.
Okay. Told you before the show that if the Steelers actually take a running back in the first round this year, it is not going to surprise me because of a dream that I had last night. Now, if you ask me who I would take in the first round, I am a big fan of Travis Etienne. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But in my dream last night, which, by the way, I was an assistant coach for the Steelers, and we had taken Najee Harris, and it was just weird.
I'll be honest
this
with
dream.
you.
And then
Harris,
I woke up like, I never dream about like football. And last night I dreamed about that I was an assistant coach, and Coach Tomlin was picking on the rookie running back by pretending like he couldn't pronounce his first name correctly. So,
yeah, you had a good football dream. I had a terrible football dream last night. I don't even think. All right, maybe I'll have to say it here real quick. I had a nightmare, although it wasn't a nightmare. I had a bad dream. I had a dream about 3:30 in the morning, where I had a dream that I fell asleep early, which I did a couple nights earlier. So that's probably where it was. And my wife woke me up to tell me there was 3 minutes left in the Steelers game. That I dreamt that there was a Steelers game last night, and I slept through all but 3 minutes of it. Jeff's sending me a message, getting ready to start the post, that we need to get going with the post game show. I hadn't looked at your knee jerk reaction article yet. I forgot to do the inactives. I start panicking in the middle of the night because I thought I missed the Steelers game, and then I couldn't really go back to sleep the rest of the night. So I would have much rather had your Steelers dream than mine. But I'll be honest with you, Najee Harris, for me personally, I have him as number 3. A lot of people love him to death. I have him as number 3 behind Etienne and Williams. And honestly, I kind of like Williams the best, but not in the first round. That's part of the reason why I like him more. So, but I don't know as much about him. I know it's funny. He's not the typical Steelers first round pick because he's older. Usually they go for younger players. But if the Steelers like him, they know a lot more about it than I do. So that's just me. Okay. So I also don't mind investing in the offensive line early on, but the Steelers need to do something with the running back room. If they don't, in my opinion, if they don't draft, then they still need to add another free agent. They really
Correct.
do. Yep. And I it's all going to come down to how the draft falls. And I know someone earlier said, what's this talk of taking defense in the first round? I want him taking the best player. And if that best player is a linebacker, or if that best player is a corner, if that best player is, the player that's going to make the Steelers better for the next 5 years, I want them to take that player rather than have to take a running back because you set yourself up that you have to get a good one now or not at all. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I know that the co-editor for Behind the Steel Curtain, one Jefferson Bartholomew Hartman, will be happy because the Steelers will not be taking a punter in the first round.
We forgot to talk about that news. I think Brian
we re-signed punter Jordan Berry.
Yeah. Yeah. Resign. Yeah. And once again, we're still waiting for a lot of these contracts to come through. I'm assuming they're all towards about. We got some idea with Alualu's today. His was and what was going to be $6 million in Jacksonville for 2 years looks like it's $5.5 million with the Steelers. The exact breakdown of that, we're not exactly sure yet. So we're going to come back with some more running back talk to say, all right, so who do we like? Who the Steelers have? What do you think is the best move going forward? Can they turn this basically mediocre at best running back room into a first-class unit. So that's what we'll get into. And of course, we got to ask our big question at the end. So we'll be back with that in part 2. If you're on the audio side, go ahead and click over. If you're here with us on YouTube or Facebook, just give us a few seconds and we'll be right back. And we're back, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, with part 2 of the Scho Bro Show. I am behind the steel curtain co-editor Dave Schofield. And with me, as always, is my big brother Rich. Rich, you still doing good?
Always doing good. On Tuesday nights from 9 to 10 when we're on here with our Steeler family.
Yeah. Yeah, this is good. I was trying to check out, kind of what we're doing, what we're looking at in the live chat right now, how people are feeling and stuff. It's funny because everyone kind of has a different idea of how to fix the Steelers running game. Okay. Three components in my opinion to make a successful running game. You ready? In no particular order. Running back, blocking, scheme.
Yeah.
Those three things have to come together for a successful running game. And notice some people are like, well, some of that was some big runs busted out early. Yeah, that was true. But the Steelers were up there and rushing to start the season and then finished at the bottom. But once teams figured out that Matt Canada's stuff and his motions were only on running plays. So when they saw those motions, they knew that the Steelers were going to run. I mean, seriously, none of those motions were in pass plays. Jeffrey Benedict goes on and on about that. So the scheme when it came for running was extremely lacking last year. The blocking for running, whether it be execution or philosophy,
right,
had a lot to be desired in the run game.
Yeah.
Personally, I didn't like the philosophy. I don't like the not firing out. That's just me. And then
you know what it looked like offensively?
Yeah.
There was a scheme for the running game, and there was a scheme for the passing game.
Yep.
And they were about, I don't know, this connected.
Yeah. For those of you listening in audio
podcast form, my hands are up, and they are not touching each other.
Yes. It was. I mean, basically,
there was no connection between the two. So It was eventually easy to figure out which one was going to happen.
Before the ball was snapped, the defense knew if it was a run or a pass.
Correct.
That doesn't work.
Nope.
That doesn't work. So I'm glad the Steelers are at least realizing that was a big problem. Now, if you look at that as being the only problem, then you're not going to make a very big jump, right?
Correct.
So, you know me, I'm like, I like it when you're watching a football game and they turn and they give you the all 22 view or the end zone view, which is where my season ticket seats are, which is my favorite view because that's where you stand as a coach during practice. And they show you the play on a replay and they're like, oh my goodness, look at that hole. My grandmother could have run through that hole. That's when you have a good running game.
Yeah.
Okay. Hand the ball off to grandma. Let her get 5 yards. Right? Because you are moving the line of scrimmage and you are opening up the lanes for the running backs. To me, that's the number one thing with the running game. But you've also got to have the runner that can do it because, I mean, we've been there. I mean, I'm not going to say if this was from my coaching days or my playing days, but I remember, offensive line could open the most beautiful hole for a running back who ran the wrong way. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
I don't think the Steelers have that, but there are times where it seems like when you go back and look at, now granted, we have a little bit more aerial view when we're looking at the all 22 stuff afterwards in the coach's film, that you can see it better, that it's a whole different game when you're looking at it eye level on the field. But sometimes you can see that there were creases open and the running backs did not hit those creases. So I believe firmly with the Steelers, it was all three. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The scheme was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the scheme eventually was easy to read because it was not connected to the passing game at all.
Exactly.
Once that was the case, you were trying to ask the line, who was primarily asked to pass block, to run block, and they couldn't do it. And then you had backs that weren't going to be able to take poor to mediocre blocking and turn it into anything.
Yeah.
That's where we got, where we got spoiled with Jerome Bettis.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if a play got blown up, Bettis was still good for, 3 yards.
Yeah. He could blow somebody else up, to get what he needed to do. So to me, it's funny because with the run blocking, it almost looked like the Steelers were trying to disguise whether or not they were running or passing by blocking in the same with the same mentality. Like not wanting to get the linebackers or the defense to be able to read the offensive line to see if they're running or passing. And all that did was make it to where you couldn't run as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm like, they were telegraphing what they were doing anyway. They're trying to disguise it by how they were blocking wasn't going to be one thing. So here's the other question. Can the Steelers upgrade their running back room with just one more player? Does it only take the one player to take this running back squad to that first class level?
Now, I'm going to pick on you just a tad.
Go ahead.
All right? That's a bad question.
Why is that? Because it's a yes or no question?
Because the answer is always yes.
Well, no, but there's a follow-up. No, it's not always. So you think one player could make the difference?
It just depends on who the player is.
Well, that's the question.
You give me Barry Sanders in his prime, and you take that room and you just transformed it into something spectacular.
Because the question is that type of player available to the Steelers at this time, either in free agency or the NFL draft? That's the question.
Anymore, I'm not sure that player even exists in the NFL.
That's why I asked the question. Is there one player like that can change your running back room, that could make it from mediocre to first class? Is that possible? And if so, is there, you think, well, it's possible out there somewhere, but if that player's not available, whether in the draft or in free agency, then it's not, if you know what I mean. It's not possible for the Steelers. So the question is, what's the best chance of the Steelers having an improved running back room? I'm not saying rushing attack, because we know it takes more than that. What's the best chance for them to have an improved running back room for this season? Is it to go running back with their first pick in the draft? Is it to say, you know what, is there really anyone out there worth getting? Some people were throwing, they're players like Duke Johnson are available. Todd Gurley's available. Mr. Butt Naked Get Robbed is still available, who hasn't seen much success outside of the Steel City. But would a player like that really make the difference? Or is it really they've got to go in the draft? And then the question is, what happens if the guys they really like are already gone by the time they get to 24?
All right. So could the Steelers, really get their running back room to where it could get? Yes, but it's gonna take multiple guys. Okay. Now, I'm not saying this is what it would take. I'm just going to give this as an example as maybe something like this. Okay. And that would be doing something like drafting one of those top 3 guys and signing a free agent like Mr. Butt Naked Get Robbed. Okay. And then trimming the fat elsewhere on the running back, in the running back room.
Okay.
And you've then, I won't say turned it into a great running back room, but you've definitely made a very noticeable upgrade. Or at least what appears to be a very noticeable upgrade.
Okay, so
now,
then it comes down
saying
to
that everybody's on here. Bell, no, I'm just saying that. Yeah, whether it be you get somebody like Bell, you bring back somebody like Connor, you go get that,
there's
that
some guys
veteran
left
guy that has carried the ball a good bit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you have him in there, not necessarily to carry the ball as much as they were used to, but to sprinkle in with one of those three guys you could get in the draft, sprinkle in a little Anthony McFarland, see what you got.
Yeah. And what the Steelers do might, by the time the draft is done, and, remember, the Monday after the draft is when you can sign players that don't count anymore towards the compensatory formula. There was some misinformation out there on Twitter land today that said that the Steelers are no longer in line for that's not true, because Alualu didn't leave, and then they signed these other guys like Miles Killebrew that came in on a what's it called, the veteran benefits, I can't remember because I write it down,
basically the vet men,
that they're under a special salary. They don't qualify for the compensatory formula. So the Steelers are still going to be in line for at least one or two picks, and they'll probably still have other guys, maybe lose other guys, but they'll see. But you could even sign someone the Monday after the draft that doesn't count towards the compensatory formula. So you could see that. But if you don't see a lot of Steeler fans don't see the action at running back in the draft and in free agency come the middle of May that they thought they were going to see, then that means that the Steelers believe a whole lot more in Anthony McFarland than what we realize.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's wise or not. I really couldn't tell you because I don't think there was enough of a body of work about it. So, but at the same time,
we don't have enough film. I would have to trust that they saw what they needed to see in practices.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to look at a player like James Conner. You got to look at a player like Benny Snell. You got to look at Anthony McFarland. Didn't really get many carries from Jalen Samuels last year, although he played a lot of snaps. It still comes back to what good is it, even if you add a free agent and a top running back, if you don't have the line to run block for it. So I, for one, would not mind the Steelers addressing one of these positions in free agency in order to address the other one in the draft. If you know what I mean. Upgrade somewhere in order to do that. So they've already tried to work what they can with this scheme. So I think, personally, I don't see the Steelers running game going from worst to first. But I mean, that would be, but we don't even want it to go to first. I don't even know if I see the Steelers running game going from worst to middle of the pack. Even if they choose to, like I say, I'm still not a big proponent of running back in the first round, but hey, you got to do something at some point to improve this running game. I just want to see that. I just want to see moving in the right direction because I know Ben's back, looking like it's his last season. The Steelers felt like they were really close last year, which is funny because to the fans, we don't feel they were as close the way the season finished out. But they feel like they were really close, that they just need to that they were really close to getting there. That the running game might take more than one season, which is not what you want to hear about when it comes to Ben Roethlisberger. But if you can improve that offensive line and running game for the next person past Ben Roethlisberger, then that's going to help the Steelers much further down the line.
Even better. But see, I still think with Ben Roethlisberger, you don't need to have, a top 5 running game, but you can't have a 30-second
help though. Yeah.
If we finish in the run department, say around 20 last year, how much does that help?
20 versus 32. Yeah.
Just finish 20th in the league instead of 32, and just think about what potentially trickle-down effect that has into our passing game.
Yeah.
So improve it. That's first.
I agree. So it's got to be building and moving in the right direction. That's the biggest thing, is going in the right direction. We want to see the success of the offensive line going in the right direction. I just think the infusion of Kevin Dotson will help. I also don't want to put too much pressure that Kevin Dotson is the savior, if you know what I mean.
No,
that's an awful lot to do.
Think about this.
I think it'll help.
Think about this for a second. Okay. Would you do you feel that there could already be improvement on the offensive line's ability to help the running game just by putting Kevin Dotson and Zach Banner on the field together?
I think it's a good possibility. We got to see how Banner's knee comes back.
Sure.
And everything. And remember, Dotson was playing last year with a chip on his shoulder because not getting invited to the combine. There was an interview this week about him. He was anxious about the draft and everything. Didn't know if he had proved himself enough to get drafted. The Steelers drafted him, so he continued to need to prove himself. Great job, great story. He's just got to keep up with that, and I think he will. I think he will. I just don't want to put. I don't want to put the whole weight of the Steelers' offensive line on fourth-round draft pick Kevin Dotson. Because
once you see what a guy's got, it's what he's got.
Yeah. I think he's got it.
Okay, he wasn't fooling people last year. He wasn't succeeding because, he was tricky and fooling everybody. No, he was just beating people up.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the story from him from college, where he would come to the line and tell the defense, "We're running right here."
Yeah.
And then they'd snap the ball. Because in other words, he was saying, "You're not going to beat me no matter what. I can tell you where we're going. And
I'm bad, and there's nothing you can do about it." And that's how he played last year. Once a guy has that, he has that.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to go to the other side of the football, okay, the first thing that comes to my mind on that is Mean Joe Green.
Mm-hmm.
He was big. He was bad. He let everybody know it, and he just had it, and he always had it.
Yep.
So
it's going to be interesting to see.
I already think that there are things happening with the offensive line that are going positive. I'm with you. I don't think they're done. There's still some more that needs to be done. And I'm also with you in terms of thinking, well, is that going to happen draft? Is that going to, where is that going to happen?
Yeah. Because I will tell you this. You ready? Bold question. In 2 years from now, are any of the running backs who are currently on the Steelers team still on the Steelers?
No.
Maybe McFarland, just because it'd be the end of his rookie deal. But but no, I don't. I think you're going to see some cycling through. Maybe Derek Watt, if you throw him in there, if they start using the fullback and he continues doing his special team stuff. But probably not. Probably not. So anything else you want to say before we go to our big question?
No, let's get to the question.
You want the big question? Okay.
No, good.
All right.
Big question. Big question.
Okay. Don't
answer yet.
Okay.
You people in the live chat, not till we put it out into the chat.
Yes.
Follow directions.
Well, right now they don't even know what it is. Okay.
But I'm
going to give you this disclaimer.
I had
no names.
Not following directions all day.
Yeah. No names. You are not putting a name out there. You are going to be putting specifically a number or one word. Okay. This is my question to you, Rich. You're going to answer this first. In what round in the 2021 NFL draft do the Steelers select a running back? Your options are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7, because they don't have a 5th round pick unless they were to trade into the 5th round. So you could say 5.
I was going to say,
or you could put the word,
because I knew that. So
remember, don't answer anybody yet because it's not there. Or you write the word no, which means they're not going to draft one, or say no or none.
Okay.
Where do you think they go running back?
Come on, people! I even said follow directions, and y'all aren't following
these people.
directions.
I'm taking note of these names, and I'm not going to bring them up when they put them up later. I'm taking note of the names.
It's been a day of people not following directions for me.
Kathy.
There you go.
You've got to answer, Rich, so I can put this out there.
I'm going to answer 2.
You're going to say 2? You want to say 1?
Against my dream from last night, and I'm going to say 2.
You want to say 1, but you
want to say 1 just because
of
my dream, but I'm going to say 2.
And there, it's out there in the chat. I will now be bringing it up. I don't remember all the names because too many of you didn't follow directions. But, well, you could have put none, or you could say what Jack Bauer said, 0. Okay. Don't draft a running back. Okay. This is my answer. It's a Dave answer. It doesn't actually answer the question. But to Carlos Smith, I'm going to put it up there because he's cheating with this one. 1 through 3 or none. That's my answer. Either go big or go home.
If I was allowed to go more, that's the direction I was going.
Okay.
I wasn't going anywhere after 3.
Kyle says 2.
Thanks for agreeing with me, son.
Awesome stuff. 1983 says 1. James Barnhart says 3. George says, hey, Felicia.
Hey, Felicia.
Steel Dog 88 says 2. Mark Rainey says 1. Gyro says 1.
Demetrios,
okay, says 1. And I'll give you my thoughts on this at the very end. Kathy says 3. Master of Puppets says 2. Ezra, he said it before I put it up there, but I did it anyway. He said -1 because he said it before he broke the rules. Steelers Pittsburgh says in the second. Just me, I'll bring you up anyway, even though you jumped the gun too. 4. Okay. Wes, I'm not bringing yours up because I said no names. Henry,
but I will say that I will give you the round 1 credit there.
Yes, he said round 1. Okay. Yep. Anthony says round 3. Stacy says 6. Okay. See, that's where I don't want to see a running.
Yeah, I don't want to see a running back there because that's a waste of a pick.
This jumped on me. I got to go back to where I was. Okay. Michael O'Malley says 2. John C says 2. Donald Nolan says yeah. Okay. What was that part? Yeah. Okay. Jim, we can say Jim says 2.
McCarley, how hard is that?
I'm sorry, I've almost said McCarthy.
Come on.
Bill jumped the gun, but I'll give his as well. He said 2. Faustino says 3. John C says 2. Kyle Smith says 2. Garrett says 4. George says 2. Felicia says hey to George. Mark Tobin says 2. Jeff Lauderdale says 3. Matt Stofko says 2. Okay. I'm going to bring this up, although it's not answering the question, but I could have skipped it, but I'm not going to. Russ says he predicts 2 running backs get cut after the draft. So he's saying even before training camp. I don't know about, unless you mean sometime after the draft before the season. I think they'll carry him through camp. And then because the last thing you want to do is have someone go down for the season.
Correct.
Okay. Gyro says 1. Okay. Sadie Mae says 2. No One You Know says 1. Anthony Godwin says no. Okay. Kenny DeWitt says 3.
Oh, no, see, you skipped Tyler W. That's actually, a pretty interesting point.
Yeah, he said pick 40, meaning they're either going to trade back or trade up.
Correct.
I can see, which is kind of right in there where I talked about. I think I was David Cano says 1. Brian said the same kind of thing, 2, but not in our spot. Okay. Got to be sooner. Okay. Some people, okay. Wes said, sorry, I missed the no name thing. Was that Recco or Rico? I don't know. Parsons says round 1. I see Wes did it. I can bring it up.
Right, now you can put it up 1. There. There you go.
Okay. Mark Rainey says 1. And Bert says round 1. Russ says round 1. Oh, okay. Well, I already got Sadie before too. Debbie Dickerson says 1. Jamie Carlos says 1. Anthony Goodwin says 3. Okay. And Donald says that he loves that I attempted the French accent. Notice he said attempting. Shaquille says 2. Okay. Felicia said she's not going to do it. She didn't follow the rules, and I saw her. But no, Felicia, I'd still put it up there. Ezra says 1 for number 7. And then Robert says 2. Okay.
All right. I'm looking at these, and definitely I'd say we saw the most for round 1. Followed not too far away from round 2.
Yep.
A few 3s sprinkled in, and a couple of others.
Yes.
Which most people are feeling we're going to go running back somewhere in the first 3 rounds.
Yep.
Would not surprise me. I'm really with you though. If we don't go by the 3rd round, not worth it.
Yep.
We're
Here's
wasting
Faustino saying, "Hey, thanks for the shout out, Dave. First time live. Hey, glad you could join us tonight.
Here's
my biggest thing. And I say about a first round running back, and a lot of times I say it's because, well, the longevity, everything else. I'm going to admit part of it of why, I mean, I know who I would like those guys, the top guys. And I'm like, I really wish you didn't have to go round 1. Side note, this was one I think I was going to say earlier. There was, I think it was a PFF mock draft, 2-round mock draft that came out today. Michael Beck brought to my attention. They had the Steelers going edge rusher.
Yeah, not
their
happening.
First 2 picks.
No.
And in their round 2 pick, they had both center Creed Humphrey available, and there had not been a running back taken. They had no running backs going in the first 2 rounds.
No, not.
And they
not
had
happening.
they had the Steelers not doing that to take a second edge rusher. I'm like, okay, I say this is why I don't do full league mock drafts, because I don't want to screw up something that would obviously a team would not do, because that would be crazy. But I'm going to tell you, when it comes to a running back in the first round, part of my problem is I don't pull a Coach Tomlin. I pull a Coach Tomlin in the playoffs, not a Coach Tomlin every time. Oh. Meaning where he says we don't live in our fears, because we've added that. We don't live in our fears except in the playoffs. Because they didn't go for it on 4th and 1. But that's kind of our thing that we say.
Here, I want to bring this one up.
Hold on. What I say about living in my fears, I just want to finish this. The running back position to me is one that is so easy for a player to lose significant games or even the season. Yeah. I didn't do it with last year's yet, and I need to. But in 2019, there were only a third of NFL teams had their leading rusher play in every game. Only 1/3. That means 2/3 of the league had their leading rusher miss at least 1 game. And that's guys that ended up being the leading rusher, let alone guys that would have been leading rushers but missed more games. So part of me is like, imagine, you get that first round draft pick, and then all of a sudden, boom, you got nothing the first year because something happens. Okay, it could happen at any position. It could
happen at any. It could happen anywhere. Really,
but for some reason, running back is the one that makes me live in my fears the most.
It's just because of the nature of the position: running the ball, catching the ball, blocking everything. They're just greater chance something could happen. I mean, some of my poor fantasy teams, all those poor people that had the first or second pick in their draft and either had, Saquon Barkley or, Christian McCaffrey. Yeah. We know how well that had turned out. All right, you got to let me bring this up because I like it.
Go ahead.
All right, so Ezra says, Najee is pepperoni, Etienne is sausage, Javante is mushrooms. But really, we just need to order a pizza. Pick a topping.
I might have to steal that, Ezra.
Yeah,
I might.
Actually, really good.
Pick a topping. Which one you like the most? And you know what's crazy? I might like. Well, it's funny because I don't eat fungus, but out of the list there, I might like mushrooms the best. But that might not be what Mike Tomlin likes the best. That might not be what Kevin Colbert likes the best. And that might not be what anyone else does. But you're right. I want the Steelers more than anything. I want them to take a player that is going to make an impact on this team for years to come if they're available at 24. Meaning the last thing I want, I said this earlier, this was kind of the gist of my article at the website. The last thing I want to happen is to have the Steelers have an amazing prospect in their eyes drop to them at 24, and they can't do it because if they don't take their running back, then they're not going to get them. I'd love for the running back to drop to him. That would be fine. But what if it's not? What if it's not? Well, what if quarterback? I doubt it's the quarterback. What if I told you, I think I said it last week. I did a mock draft where, my goodness, Kyle Pitts was available at pick 24. I'm like, who are the idiots running these other picks? No way he's going to be there. But if he is, my goodness, should the Steelers make that pick? Then the last thing I want them to do is to have to fill out a running back card because they have to go that route.
Right. I won't blame the Steelers, though. Like, what if they decide they want to go that running back route, but are able to figure out a way to trade that pick at 24, move back 10 spots, pick up an extra third or fourth round pick, get your running back, and be able to get another player as well later in the draft?
I could see that.
I could live with it.
I'm also okay with the Steelers getting a phenomenal player at pick 24 that they didn't expect to be there. And next thing you know, they're also picking at pick, I don't know which team it is, I'm making it up, so please don't hold me to this. At pick 39, they get that, and they only have 1 4th-round pick instead of 2. You know what I'm saying? If that's what it takes to do it, I'm okay with that too. You know, if you want to trade up.
Right,
I don't know if that would do it or not. Because I haven't crunched the numbers, but yeah.
All right, we got a super chat.
Yeah, before we finish up here.
Evgeny Crosby, $4.99 in the tip jar. Thank you. The NFL is not a passing league. It's a whatever gets the job done that particular week type of league, whether it's passing or running. He's kind of right.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
We say that the NFL anymore is a passing league, but it's not totally. It really can depend on your matchups, who you're playing, and how you match up against them.
Exactly. Because you know what? You can be that great running team. Like I pointed out in the Steelers Vertex coming out tomorrow, which I'll tell you now, it's on Tyson Alualu. Since he did his change of heart and is coming back to the Steelers.
Face.
We didn't talk about that because it's been talked about on other podcasts since, which is fantastic. But something about him is that before he was injured, my goodness, the Steelers played 2 teams in back-to-back. Actually, they played the top 3 running attacks from the 2020 season in 3 straight weeks. And the first 2, they held to under 100 yards.
Right.
In the Browns and the Titans. And then Alualu gets hurt 6 snaps into the Ravens game, and they run for 200 and some yards. But still, so the point is, you could be one of the best running teams in the league, and then someone could come out and shut you down running the ball. So that's right. You've got to be able to do what you got to do. I'm excited to I just want to know who I get to cheer for. That's what I want to know. I think about these guys and everything else. Is it a running back? Which I'm okay with it because I trust the Steelers. I really am. If that's what they need to improve the running game the most, do it. If improving the offensive line with your top draft pick is what you need to do in order to be able to improve that running game, do it. Okay? If you need to fire your offensive coordinator and hire another one, they did it. Okay. So I bring on the draft. I can't wait for it. So make sure you're checking out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. It's there for all your Steelers needs. We are continually bringing you crazy content all the time. Make sure you're checking out the podcast. Rich, you have any final thoughts before I ask you your final question?
No, sir.
Okay. I don't know. If you're like me, you just want to know, what are they going to do? Who are they going to be? When the Steelers come up on the Thursday night, are we going to find out that it's going to be a running back? Is it going to be some other great player? That's all right. All I know is that when that moment comes, I'm going to be excited. So how do you feel about that moment?
I can't wait.
See you next Tuesday.